Welcome. It's just me today. Ha! Just kidding.
Psych.
Psych. Welcome to the Hormetic Monks, episode 11.
11.
Back at it again. Jacob's drinking
yeah.
from the snowman.
Yep.
Here, let's hear you show them. Here, let's show them.
Yeah.
We got this nice snowman. Cup of coffee here with little pipes. But, anyways, we're going to talk about a little bit about Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and just our general thoughts on it. Again, just from a high level. So
High level, yeah. Majorly high level. So, you wanted to explain Bitcoin?
what Bitcoin is?
Yeah,
Okay, so from a high level.
from a high level. I'm pretty sure most people by this point know what Bitcoin is.
Well, a lot. Yeah, I would
Most
say
people,
a lot.
they've
a lot
heard of
people.
it, whatever. But like, it's what it? Yeah.
What is it? So it's essentially the way I think about it is a software. So basically, it's a software, but it has blockchain technology. Now, Bitcoin, it was programmed in C++, and that's a programming language. A lot of programmers are familiar with that programming language, except for it uses blockchain technology. And blockchain technology, essentially, this is, and I could, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially what it is if you have a ledger or something like if I wrote down on a piece of paper a bunch of information, right? And there was 100 people in a room and we each had a copy, that's essentially what it would be. It would be a distributed ledger, so it would be shared amongst a network of computers, and those network of computers have an algorithm, a consensus algorithm, that basically cross-checks like every ledger in the network. And so anytime there's a transaction that's posted on the blockchain, on Bitcoin's blockchain, the consensus algorithm goes around and makes sure that it is copacetic with all the other ledgers in the group. And if somebody is trying to commit fraud or something like that, it's going to reject it, because it's going to go and it's going to say, oh, it's going to compare with all the other members in the group, and they're going to say, oh, that doesn't match up to what we have here. Mm-hmm. So if I sent $10 to you, or if I sent a Bitcoin to you, let's say, if I sent a Bitcoin to Jacob, it would the consensus algorithm would basically make sure and say, okay, now it's been sent to Jacob. I can't then send him another Bitcoin if I don't have another Bitcoin. And that's roughly what it is. Basically it keeps everybody honest. And it's decentralized, so no one person basically has the power to go in and edit it. So
Yeah, it takes 6 nodes, which is 6 computers, to confirm a transaction, and they get paid a tiny little bit to confirm that transaction. The computer's running.
Right, and a node is just
by 6 nodes spread out across the across the world, and work together to verify the transaction.
Well, what is a node? Is it just a single computer? Because that seems like a low amount of...
A computer connected to other computers which follows rules and shares information. A full node is a computer in Bitcoin's peer-to-peer network which hosts and synchronizes a copy of the entire Bitcoin blockchain. Nodes are essential for keeping a cryptocurrency network running.
Right.
And
So
that is one of the reasons why Bitcoin is so freaking cool. It's like, it is there. It is like, I don't know of any way that it can be shut down. That's why for living in the modern age, or like in a country where for instance, like the United States, where the dollar doesn't look too strong, it's another way to save your wealth. Like Venezuela, I think that the Venezuelan president supported Bitcoin. I think isn't that right? Remember
what?
the Venezuelan president, the one that is like super popular right now, you hear about all the time?
He's doing what?
he made Bitcoin like their currency.
I don't know if it's Venezuela. I think it's.
Or he said good things about it. Thanks. Yep. I'm just kidding.
Let me see that. No, there's not Venezuela, but there's another country that made Bitcoin their national currency.
Yeah.
El Salvador.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
Or Bitcoin.
But anyways, a lot of these countries that are going through rough times, they go over to like different cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. And it really what's nice is it's easy to transport. It's not like gold. Gold is hard to transport. It's also very it's secure as long as you keep it like you have in your wallet. You make sure your wallet's secure. You got two-factor authentication.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there. I don't think there's anything out there that can hack Bitcoin. Like I believe you'd have to have supercomputing to be able to do.
Well, you have to take over 51% of the computers on the network. So everybody that's connected to the Bitcoin network, you'd have to take over half.
Which I don't think that's really even possible because a lot of them are using they're using different address locations than they actually are, not different like fake address locations.
They're in every jurisdiction across the world, so you can't if like
they're using VPNs too. That's what I meant.
Virtual private networks. Yeah. And China actually banned Bitcoin, and they banned Bitcoin mining, and all the miners basically just moved. Yeah. So it's like no one country or jurisdiction can actually, even if they manage to take over all the computers in the network in that country, which I don't even think that's possible, but even if they could, there's still all these other computers in all these other countries and jurisdictions where they can't actually take care of, because there's always going to be a country that's pro-Bitcoin. Like, El Salvador is Bitcoin is the official national currency of El Salvador. I just confirmed that.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so basically, I think there's a node is basically a collection of, it's a computer that it synchronizes with thousands of other computers, and then it verifies all those. So it's not just like there's 6 nodes and 6 points.
No, there's thousands of computers, but like they're all like fighting to solve the trend. Not fighting. They're all competing. They're all competing to complete the transaction before the other computers do, and they get paid a little bit for it.
Right.
They get a tiny percentage of a Bitcoin or something like that. I believe. Right.
And it used to be they could get whole Bitcoins by solving transactions, but as time goes on, the algorithms get, or the mathematical problem that must be solved, it gets more and more hard, difficult, and then reward actually gets the reward in Bitcoin gets lower, but the monetary reward basically stays relatively the same because the price goes up for each Bitcoin. So in the beginning, a Bitcoin may only be worth $600. So if you get a reward, a Bitcoin, $600, that's pretty good. But then right now it's at $52,000 roughly for one Bitcoin. So you can get just a small fraction of a Bitcoin and still get rewarded the same amount.
And what ends up happening is like the fluctuations in price. It's like the higher the price of Bitcoin, the worth more. The more value there is into mining Bitcoin. And whereas if the price is lower, there's less people interested in mining it. They'll start mining other cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, because it's just not worth doing.
Supply and demand.
I wonder if that affects like the transaction speed. Because I have noticed, like I did a Bitcoin transfer not too long ago, and it took way longer than it used to. Anyway, I think there's probably just more users.
Could be just
yeah. So as a functionality, like Bitcoin is not like highly, like if you want a quick transaction, probably not the best, but it's good for saving. Like it's good for like monetary
storing value.
Right. Like if you want to do a fast transaction like Ethereum,
Why?
Ethereum is not. Yeah.
I think that even the SEC basically ruled that it was basically like property.
Yeah. Okay. But the indications of what like how much Bitcoin is going to be worth in the future is going to be insane. I mean, because more and more people are getting aware. It's been around for a while. It's like stood this test of time. So more people are finally getting into it, and yeah, I don't think it's going to be going anywhere.
Never. No. Yeah, it says the federal government rules cryptocurrency in general, not just Bitcoin, for tax purposes as real property. So basically, it's like real estate in their eyes. So you know, capital gains tax and all that stuff, I think applies. But yeah, but it is interesting. So like, and it's I was looking at this the other day. So like, you have the block. Each block contains like the transactional data. So if I send you a Bitcoin, it's going to have like my wallet, I think my public wallet address, your public wallet address, and it's going to have like the date, how much I sent you, some other stuff, and that's going to be in the block. And then they also have a hash in there, because I don't know if you heard of like, so the first block that was ever produced was called the Genesis block. Genesis obviously being like the beginning, so the beginning block, and then in the block there's the transactional data, and in the transactional block data there's a hash code, and that hash code is basically it's calculated by the transactional data that's in there, and so it creates a unique hash by using the information that's in the block, and then on the next block that last hash is stored in the transactional block of the former. The current block is stored as the transaction or the hash of the former block, and then because of that former block's hash being in the block of the current block, the hash that's in there for that block is unique too. So basically, and that continues on, so it creates this chain. So then, you know, you're on block 32. Well, if you go back and you try to change something in the blockchain, it doesn't work because you would have to recalculate all the hashes going all the way back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Yeah. See.
So, but anyway, yeah. So, but that's essentially from a high level, like kind of what Bitcoin is. Yeah. It's just a software essentially, but because it's decentralized and because of the way it's coded for basically monetary transactions. So it's like a currency, a software currency that's using blockchain technology. So it allows it there to be no one point of attack. It allows there to be not anonymous transactions, but actually you can go and look at the blockchain and see who transferred what to who, when, and how, and all that stuff going back in time.
But well, you can see the transactions, but I don't think you don't know exactly who the person is. You just know the.
You do if you know their public address.
If you know their public, yeah.
But like the FBI has used Bitcoin to go back through and bust drug dealers and stuff that have used Bitcoin in the past.
Yeah.
So like initially, like drug dealers would use Bitcoin thinking that it's anonymous, but it's totally not anonymous. The FBI can go through and they can track that.
But the nice thing about Bitcoin is, like, I just want to double check, but it's never been hacked before. It's the most secure digital system in the world and the most reliable monetary system ever invented.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's really a hedge against, it puts the power back into people. So like you don't have to be reliant on whatever government you have for their currency, because we all know like typically governments, like as they age, they suckier to get. So like
this is true.
Yeah,
this is true.
So,
well, and that's the thing is Bitcoin is essentially meaningless and worthless if it wasn't for all the people that have bought into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So, like, just out of curiosity, I don't know off the top of my head, look up how many people actually have Bitcoin, roughly.
People
Use Bitcoin, yeah. Because every additional person that buys into Bitcoin, it creates more value to that currency. It actually makes it valuable.
Global Bitcoin owners, 219 million.
219 million. So that's pretty big. That's that's bigger than a lot of small countries' population.
So that's 219 million. Let's go back in 2020. Let's see, that's 4 years ago.
46.
46 million.
So
that's Americans.
Oh, okay.
No.
But let me just you
Yeah,
continue to look that. But the thing that is interesting is like the only reason why the U.S. dollar is worth anything is because it's backed by the full faith and basically the pledge of the American government to back it up, and we have to pay taxes in it. So essentially, like the only thing that makes a currency like the U.S. dollar worthwhile is that there's a use for it. So like the reason why Americans work for U.S. dollars and take those, you go to your job every day, you get paid at the end of the week, or you get paid at the end of every 2 weeks, and then you go and you take that to somebody else and they'll actually accept those U.S. dollars for goods and services, is because basically the government has said we're going to collect taxes in U.S. dollars. We're gonna say this is legal tender, so you can basically use it for paying taxes, for paying for contracts, governmental contracts. So essentially, the government made the U.S. dollar worthwhile because the U.S. government bought into to the U.S. dollar, and then kind of the government being the head of the state and the head of the people, because we're in a democratic republic. We then also bought into it, and then now everybody's using it, and then it goes out to the rest of the world, to where most people throughout the whole world have at one time or another touched or used U.S. dollars. But if all of a sudden the people just decided that the U.S. dollar wasn't worth anything, and just decided that they weren't gonna use it anymore, and they were just gonna use Bitcoin would become the U.S. currency. Just like in El Salvador, the government has basically made it official that Bitcoin is the national the national currency for El Salvador. So now Bitcoin is basically one of the predominant currencies used in El Salvador, and so this is just this is instead of having the government control Bitcoin, which it doesn't because it's decentralized. The people on the network and that use Bitcoin are able to essentially get the power that normally would be lost by the U.S. government, because basically the U.S. government prints our currency. Yeah. So we lose out on that because basically we have to pay taxes, but then we also have to pay the tax of inflation. And the Bitcoin, it's set at 21 million. There is going to be no more Bitcoin. So when you have a cap on your currency and there's no central control, it doesn't allow for there to be any inflation. Mm-hmm. So, and in the absence of inflation, you actually have de-inflation, because over time, a currency naturally will get more and more valuable if there's a total cap on how much of that currency is in existence. It'll become more and more valuable because naturally, unless there's a pandemic or there's a war or what have you, people naturally are more productive, we're more inventive, and we generally produce more over time. And if you have more goods and services that are produced, and you still have the same total amount of currency on the left side, and you have more goods and services on the right side, things become more and more cheaper, because you basically have like fewer Bitcoins, let's say in this case, chasing more and more goods and services, instead of more, in the case of the US dollar, increasingly more US dollars chasing basically this amount of goods and services, and they print more and more U.S. currency all the time. So then things get more and more expensive all the time. Just like if you put 10 people in a room and you all said, "Hey, this is for sale," and you gave each person $100, right? And then then people might buy this for $1. But then if you did it again, and you gave everybody $1 million each, someone might be willing to pay $1,000 for this, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So
inflation.
yeah.
I got some interesting stuff right here. So based on analysis, there was 23.1 million users as of January 2020, and currently there are 219 million people using it now in 2024.
Right.
That is insane. And I mean, if you see the potential where it's at right now, and the more people, and like, it's gonna be crazy. Like,
yeah, well, because you think about it, like, okay, so like, I mean, that's what? That's like 10 times, basically, it's gone up 10 times, the user base, in 4 years.
Which is insane.
That's an insane amount of growth.
It like, the predictions are, like, in 2025, $200-something thousand per Bitcoin. Right now it's at 53. Right. So like, if people are afraid, like, I have FOMO. I wish I had more money to put in it. Like, I plan, like I've got some debts and stuff. Obviously you want to pay off debts before you invest, because like, that's just, yeah. But basically, like, what I had is I just have like a weekly withdrawal or weekly deposit, or whenever you have a paycheck, just automatic. Like, I'll every 2 weeks is when I'm gonna be getting paid. Every 2 weeks, I'm gonna put in I don't know, $50 to $100 or something like that.
Right, you're just dollar cost averaging.
Yeah, as an investment strategy, just something like that, where it automatically just puts it in, you budget for it, but that money literally has to just not exist in your head.
Right.
Because what I've done, I don't do what I've done. I had 2.5 Bitcoin, it might have been 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. I've dabbled with Bitcoin since then. If I would have just kept it and not tried to trade and do all this stuff, I'd be sitting great right now. Yeah. Like, unless you're gonna get really big into it, I'm not a financial advisor, but the best way, from my understanding, is just a little bit over time investing, trying to get rich quick doesn't really work that well.
Right. Like Naval says, there are no Naval Ravikant. There are no get rich quick schemes. That's just somebody trying to get rich off of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you hear about you hear the positive or the biases, like, oh, this person, they became a millionaire. I personally know people that have made tons of money and then lost it, because they're like, yeah, heck yeah, we're gonna keep on going, and then,
it's like gambling.
It turns into gambling. Like, a good trader wins 51% of the time, loses 49% of the time. Like, that's a good trader. Right. So
It's hard.
Yeah, and people get lucky, and then I mean, the thing is like, you can do leverage stuff, but just do your research. Right. Know the history of the company, know what's going on globally. Right. But yeah, I mean, I know, one of my friends, they show me what they're trading and stuff here and there. They're doing long-term leverage trades, and it's still risky. It can just go to zero. I've had many options where you think something's gonna happen, and then it goes to zero. Right. It's this hoping.
And this, well, and this is the thing too, is Bitcoin is essentially worthless. Yeah. If nobody uses it. I mean, it's just like anything else. If you have a house, right? You gotta have a house be valued at $500,000 in Detroit pre Ford Motors and all that stuff, basically moving out of there. Yeah. And so Detroit was once a really, really great city, clean city, and it had a lot of production there. There was a lot of companies there with a lot of jobs there in Detroit. And then those manufacturers end up moving out of Detroit, and the property values there plummeted.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because you didn't have as much demand. There wasn't as much demand for housing because there wasn't as many jobs there, and wealthy people started moving out, and just everyday average Americans started moving out of Detroit. So essentially, Bitcoin is trying to compete with the national currencies around the world, whether that's the U.S. dollar or the Chinese yuan or the Japanese yen or the Russian ruble. Like, these are all currencies, right? National currencies that are widely used in the country of like Russia, China, Japan, America, right? Well, if everybody stopped using the U.S. dollar or everybody stopped using the Japanese yen, it would essentially be worthless, right? So the thing is when if you're looking at Bitcoin as an investment idea or an investment opportunity, you have to sit there and say, well, do you think over the long term that Bitcoin is going to move up as far as currency? So, like, are more people going to start getting out of their currencies, their national currencies, and moving into Bitcoin? Or at some point, is Bitcoin going to continue to go up, and then at some point, are people going to stop and get out of Bitcoin? I think that I can see it both ways, but I do think there's a argument to be made that Bitcoin will eventually take over all the national currencies, and there's also I think a moral argument to say that really it should, and because I don't think that governments should have control of the currency.
I do have one, like, I don't think that. I think that, I mean, you won't know until you play this out, like 5 to 10 years or now. Like, I think that the Bitcoin network will be able to handle it, because the more people you have in the back, I mean, the transaction speed has gone down, so it's not a practical one, but storing value, yeah. Another thing, oh no, I'm drawing a blank. I was actually thinking about this, but yeah, it's
You're basically saying as more people move into Bitcoin, the transactional speed is going to go down because as more people are on the network and more people use the software, it takes longer and longer to transfer Bitcoin from one person to another.
Yeah, but shoot, why am I drawing a blank on that? Anyways, I'll come back to it if I remember. But so yeah, I mean, you already saw the growth with Bitcoin. I mean, you got Robert Kiyosaki. He's predicting at the end of the year, or by June, that Bitcoin will reach 100,000.
Right.
But another thing is, there's a lot of hype out there. I know for me, like I get FOMO, fear of missing out. Sometimes it's just people that, like, I've been seeing it all over the place. Like, there's people like saying Bitcoin's gonna hit this, Bitcoin's gonna, and really what it is, it's like it's superficially pumping up Bitcoin, basically.
Right.
So you got, like, I was hearing it, and you're hearing it now. You're hearing a lot more of it, and it's like, I think psychologically, it's people fear of missing out, and I think it's kind of damaging in a way, to where people are hyping it up. Yeah, I think overall Bitcoin is going to like reach it. I think I'm 99% sure, like it'll reach 100,000. Do I think by June? I've seen predictions like this many times. I've been following it since 2012. It's gonna hit 100,000. Didn't hit it. I think that now there's enough users, potentially, and more people fear of missing out. I remember the last time it hit 67,000, people were like, oh man, I'll buy it when it gets into, like, when it's at 30,000.
When it drops back in. Right.
And so you got a lot of people holding out. I saw the price, it was at 16,000, and was, 16,000 was the lowest it was in the last, since, let's see, December, that's gonna confuse. Okay, so December 16, 2022, 16,000. That might not be the lowest.
Right.
low.
So the last time was go back here.
And before that, it was 2020.
So then from 2020
November
of 2020,
16,000.
it went up to 16,000, and then it went up way higher, up to 67,000.
Yeah.
And then in June of 2022, it went back down to 16,000, almost 17,000, and then it shot back up. Now we're at about 52,000, 51,000. And the thing is like the more people that get into Bitcoin over time, the less likely it is to actually go back down to that level. It's just a simple supply and demand. And it does seem like there's a lot of places that I think even BlackRock, which I don't appreciate BlackRock, but BlackRock, I think they set up a Bitcoin ETF. So there is a lot of wealthy investors that are talking to their financial managers and their brokers and saying, hey, we would actually like to be able to invest in Bitcoin.
I'll make a prediction right now. I don't think it'll ever go below 17,000 again. I don't see that ever. I would doubt that it goes below 25.
Sure.
25. I doubt it would ever go down. It could happen. That's happened before, but I don't think it'll ever go below 17,000.
Sure.
Ever again. I don't think so.
Outside of
But I'm
like,
not trying to fall. I'm just I'm just making a fun prediction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But like outside of like, because all this, I guess, whether it's FOMO or just people looking at it as an investment vehicle and saying, hey, I want to grow my money, and I think I can get a higher return with Bitcoin than I could say by investing in the stock market or investing in real estate. All that is speculative, essentially, in my opinion. Now there is some investors that they're looking at certain metrics as far as like on-chain metrics, where they're looking at how many people have, just like what we looked at before, where it said it was since 2020 or at 2020 there was what was it again? It was like at 2020 there was 20-something million, 21 million people that were invested in Bitcoin, and now there's over 200 million invested.
219.
Yeah, 200. So they look at that thing and they say, okay, well, or that piece of data, or they look at other pieces of data and they go, okay, well, we're going to come up with a thesis that says that this is going to be 100,000 by June, right? Robert Kiyosaki said that. So they're looking at metrics and they're saying, okay, this is probably what will happen. But to me, that's all just like, it's all speculative. We have no idea. But the point is I think the root of it is not as much about whether you're able to grow your money or not, but whether you think that Bitcoin is a better currency than, say, the US dollar or the Japanese yen. And I think that the Bitcoin is a better use case for currency. Maybe not currency.
Not currency.
Well, hang on. Let me parse that out, because that gets confusing. So basically, yes, Bitcoin is a currency.
Storation of wealth, like real estate, like they listed it as like a place to store wealth. And utility wise, it's not very good.
Well, but this is the thing. So let me try to parse this out, because a currency is basically just a medium of exchange, right? You're saying this inherently,
it's a currency.
This thing, right?
So is gold, but people aren't trading gold, like using gold to transact.
But they used to. They used to.
Yeah, it's like you can trade properties and stuff like that. Like, it's.
Well, so it's a function of friction. So basically, why don't we use real estate as currency? You could theoretically use real estate as currency. Why don't we? Well, we don't because it's not very liquid. You can't. It's also not very uniform, meaning like one piece of real estate is not the same value as another piece of real estate. Why is one Bitcoin the same value as another Bitcoin? It's because they're exactly the same, right? So when you there is a characteristics that make a currency, and one of them is uniformity. So one thing is exactly like the other. The other thing is how quickly can you do it. So real estate's not very liquid. If I have a property that's worth $100,000, I can sell it and I can get that value out of it. But the problem is I might have to put the house on the market. It may take a month to sell it. So it's not very liquid. So there's a lot of friction there. So when you look at Bitcoin and you want to determine whether it's a better storehouse of value or a currency, you have to look at how quickly can you trade it from one person to another.
Yeah.
And if more and more people are on the network and it slows down the transaction rate to the point where I want to go buy some chips at the store, or I want to go buy a bottle of liquor and I want to use Bitcoin, and it takes 30 minutes for the merchant to be able to receive that value, that's not very good. I don't want to sit around for 30 minutes and wait for the transaction to go through. But the thing is the main thing that I look at, now, so that could be an argument, whether it's currency or a storehouse of value, but the main thing that I look at is like, okay, another big property of currency that I think is important is it doesn't lose value.
This is interesting.
It doesn't lose value. So like the US dollar has lost 99% of its value, I think within the last 100 years, maybe even less. It's lost 99% of its value. And we know that because, you know, our great grandparents used to spend $3,000 or $4,000 to buy a house. They used to spend, you know, they used to work a whole week to get $25 or a whole month to get $25 for their pay. So clearly the value of the US dollar is going down over time, and that value is being transferred to our government, and our government is then using it in, I think, in some instances, very nefarious ways. I think it's better to have a if we're looking at money or currency, it's better to have a currency that is controlled, not necessarily controlled by the government, but controlled, or it's controlled by nobody. It's decentralized, and that there's no inflation, so there's no additional value being sucked away from the people. So that's why I'm
inflation, there's no inflation. There's only a limited amount.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, the limited amount, the last Bitcoin will be mined in 2040, and also the small unit of Bitcoin is a Satoshi. So
yes,
I see instead of people, I own a Bitcoin, that'll be increasing rare and rare and rare.
Right, they'll say I own 30 Satoshi.
I own a Satoshi.
Right, or I own 100 Satoshi. I think,
Yeah.
and look this up, I think there's 1,000 Satoshi per Bitcoin.
So this is it equals 0.0000000.1.
Okay, so this is 10 tenths, hundreds, thousands, tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, 10,000s, a millionth, I believe. Look that up. I believe that maybe I'm wrong. Then that looks. Say how many Satoshi are in one Bitcoin.
There are 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin.
Right. Okay.
So a millionth of a Bitcoin.
Tens, hundreds, thousands, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s,
Millions. 10 million.
Okay.
100 million.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
So
one Satoshi.
one Satoshi is 1 millionth, 100 millionth of one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So there's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin.
And this is interesting. So Bitcoin miners prioritize transactions with higher fees when selecting transactions to include in a block. The higher you set the fee of your transaction, the sooner it will be included in a block. So you can increase to incentivize a transaction, make it center. I don't know how to do that. This is actually, I did not know this. It's interesting.
Right. So essentially, right now I feel like, and we're kind of jumping all around because we're doing a little bit of learning here too. But essentially, if you look at it, I think the way the U.S. economy right now is because of inflation. Housing prices are continually going up. Now, the inflation rate in U.S. houses is a much higher rate of inflation than, say, food. And the reason is because most wealthy individuals know that there's only a few ways to keep up with inflation. So if you have money coming in, right, as a personal individual, and you can sit there and spend money on food, and then you just put the money in the bank account. Well, the monies in your bank account are going to continually go down in value. But if you buy a piece of real estate, then it holds its value, because there is a limited amount of real estate in America and also in the world, just like there is a limited amount of Bitcoin. So anything that has a limited amount is able to keep up with the rate of inflation. So that's why people are putting their money in real estate. And the more people that put money in real estate, the more the value goes up, and the higher inflation rate we have, the more people know that, the more that they're going to buy real estate. Now, we can go back to look at whether Bitcoin is a currency or a storehouse of value. It may end up being a better storehouse of value, because the transaction rate may be so slow that it's not really good for like small value purchases. But it may be very good for real estate purchases, or just to store your money, because it does have a limited amount. So just like real estate, there's a limited amount. Just like Bitcoin, there's a limited amount. So you could then therefore take your U.S. dollars, put it in Bitcoin, or put it in real estate, and you could hedge yourself against inflation theoretically. Now there's some other aspects of that with Bitcoin, meaning there may be some years that Bitcoin is not as popular, and then other years where it's more popular. But just like a real estate, a piece of property, there may be some years where there's more people wanting to own houses, and years where they're not as interested in owning houses. But the fluctuations are going to be minuscule, and they're not going to go down in one direction. Whereas if you own U.S. dollars, it's going to continually go down in value. Now, if you own real estate, it may go up, down, but it's never going to just continually go down. And I think that's relatively the same with Bitcoin. I think that's a good analogy, real estate to Bitcoin.
Yeah. So fun predictions. So by 2030, these are some predictions. So I think this is really conservative.
And this looks like Technopedia.
I'll go over the names. This is the first one that pops up. They're saying 160,000. I think that's really low.
By 2020 or by 2030?
Yeah. Here's another. Some predictions are 1 million. So coin codex, Bitcoin could gain 500% now. Changely, they're saying between 700,000 to 823,000.
Right.
I think this, to me, in my mind, this seems more realistic. 277 to 347. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's just something cool. I mean, I don't know of too many things that seem like there seems to be a really safe upside in my mind. Like for me, that's why if you want, I mean, do your own research, but conservatively, or to have something like the risk wise, for me, I don't see it as like a really high risk scenario where you're like questioning it, is it going to be good or not. I mean, if you look at it on a yearly basis, that you gotta think about the fluctuations. Like there are massive fluctuations.
Right.
In my mind, the best strategy, or the strategy that I like the most, is don't even really look at it. Just have your automatic investment that you have weekly, monthly, whatever, and just don't forget about it. That's the best way, because otherwise you're gonna it's like a long-term strategy.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and I think there's also, and obviously there's people that talk about Bitcoin and are highly educated on Bitcoin and the blockchain network, way beyond what we are. A good one, I think, if you guys are interested in Bitcoin, I'm sure most people have heard about it. But if you're kind of new to this whole concept, I think a really really good Bitcoin apologist is Michael Saylor. He's the CEO of MicroStrategy, a company, a software company, and he's actually, I think he has over 100,000 Bitcoins, or at least his company owns over 100,000 Bitcoins at this point. And he really goes into the nitty gritty of why Bitcoin is a better currency and a storehouse of value than, say, these national currencies. One of the concepts that he brought out that I remember, and I think it's an extremely valuable concept, which is that if say you're in a third world country, or even in the U.S., and you're suffering from governmental persecution, and you say have your wealth or a portion of your wealth stored in Bitcoin, and let's say the government is after you for one reason or another. Maybe you don't believe the same things they do, or maybe you're violating some of their laws and rules. Is you can actually transfer that Bitcoin or hold it in your wallet, and you're able to take all that wealth with you when you leave the country.
Yep.
Whereas if you have real estate, you can't. The government will just take it, seize it. If you have stock, the jurisdiction that you're in, wherever it is, they'll just take it. There really is nothing. No financial instrument for holding wealth is safe from the government that the country that you currently reside in. Bonds, they'll just take it. Your currency, they'll just take it.
Yeah.
If you have gold is good, but again, you may not be able to take it with you when you leave the country. It's really hard to lug around gold. But Bitcoin, if you have your private key memorized, then you can just literally bounce, and you end up in another country that is pro Bitcoin, and that is maybe not against you in that regard. And so then you're able to pick up kind of where you left off. And actually, he brought up the fact that a lot of actually Jews in Hitler Germany during World War II, they didn't leave, even though they felt like they should leave, because they had all their wealth in Germany at the time.
Yeah.
And so they felt like they should leave, but they didn't want to lose all the wealth that they had generated throughout their whole lifetime. And so they stayed, and then they ended up paying for their lives with that for that wealth that they had. And so yeah, it's a really good. I think everybody should have a little bit of it, because of that fact.
Yep. I do want, there definitely is some downsides of Bitcoin. If you send a transaction, and let's say you're manually typing it in, and you miss one keyword, gone.
Exactly.
Gone.
You forget.
So that terrified me when I learned that, but I copy and paste it, and then double check it.
Yep.
You don't have a little space or something like that. They usually have a copy clipboard or something like that, and it makes it safer. I'm sure as it evolves and gets better, that won't be an issue.
Yep.
But and yeah, also, yeah, if you send a transaction, you don't know who you sent it to, and you bought something, and it's like a scam or something, that money's gone.
Yep.
No one's gonna get it back from you. You're not gonna get reimbursed from the bank.
Right.
Stuff like that. So there's that, but you're taking on responsibility for yourself.
Right.
You're not giving out that responsibility to banks where they're making money off of your money and stuff like that.
Right.
It's your money.
With great power comes great responsibility. So you're essentially acting as the bank. So when you give your money to the bank, they essentially get all the power of your money. Basically, they're able to lend it out on, I think it's a 10-to-1 basis. It may be even higher in some instances. But you're able to keep all that power to yourself, but you also have all the responsibility of keeping it. So if you forget your address, if you forget your wallet address, gone. It's gone forever. If you get forget your seed phrases, all that stuff,
Yep.
it's gone forever. And
That's one of the reasons why, like, I didn't want to have a cold wallet at one point, which you should have a cold wallet, but I never did. But yeah, there was a guy that had Bitcoin on a drive and lost, and it's worth millions.
yeah. Yep.
I forget who. There was another person that they had the same problem. Like, let's say, like, if you've got cold storage or something like that, and let's say something happens to you and you care about your relatives, like, make sure you have a contingency plan or something like that.
Right.
Because
So
otherwise, you could have millions of dollars on there, and
Right.
then your loved ones, they'll never get access to it.
Right.
Unless quantum computing happens, or some way they're able to keep on going through, like, the code, like I mean, how many digits are the codes? It's like 20 something.
I think it's, I don't know. I thought it was like a 16, but maybe it's more. How many?
Key.
Oh, wait.
Binary. No, it's not that long. It's no, I think it's numbers and letters.
A Bitcoin address is a 26 to 62 alphanumeric character identifier that is used to receive Bitcoin address by hand. We're learning this video. Let's see.
Bitcoin wallet.
It's a minimum length of 12 characters.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's not hackable until quantum computing exists, which I think they've succeeded in running it for like a minute or something like that. Some university in California.
Yeah.
So, not anytime soon, hopefully.
Yeah, and you're right.
Quantum computing scares the crap out of me.
Yeah. No, and it's not to say that there might not be something better in the future, but in the least, I think, like Michael Saylor said, at least in the next couple hundred years, Bitcoin probably is the best currency or storehouse of value that we have. And it is interesting that Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, his company, they own over 190,000 Bitcoins at this point. 190,000.
Wait, who? Oh, Satoshi?
No, Michael Saylor, his company MicroStrategy, they've invested, and they're basically investing all the surplus for their company profits. And actually, he's raised debt, and he's sold equity shares of his company, and now the company owns over 190,000 Bitcoins.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's their strategy because
I did want to. I remembered this at the beginning. Now I'm remembering. So there is something fascinating. So Satoshi Nakamoto, he or whoever that is, whether it's a government, which there's a theory that it could be a government, because who could?
I heard it could be Russia.
Yeah, or the United States. If you had a good, like, if they were thinking smart, like thinking ahead, it would come up with something like this, because we're never going to pay off the debt. Like, they're just going to keep on going.
Let's look
and
at
going
that
and
right
going.
now. Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, basically, there's a theory that it could be like a couple governments colluding, because if it's just one person or even a small company, the restraint to just disappear. At 2011, Satoshi disappeared. The most logical reason for that would be that they either died or something, or there's some organization that has so much restraint that, like, we're not gonna touch this, like, for a certain period of time or whatever. Like, that is crazy. That no one to this day knows who it is.
Yep. Yep.
So.
So listen to this. You go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, but yeah, there is that part where people like this person has have to remain in Bitcoin. There's a wallet and it hasn't been touched.
You're right.
Half
Right.
of the world's Bitcoin, one spot.
One spot. Yeah.
So like
There's a danger in
that person could become or
Insanely
organization
powerful.
the richest person in the world.
Yep.
So
Yep. No, and it doesn't have its downsides, but the concept is what I buy into. And the concept is essentially this. And this is why I think that Bitcoin is a good investment and also morally a better currency or storehouse of value is just, and I think I've already stated it, but I want to restate it because I do think that anybody that can understand this concept will see the benefits and want to buy into this. So every country prints money, and Bitcoin is limited in supply, and the fact that it's decentralized means that no one person has complete control over Bitcoin. And so if you think about that, would you rather use, let's say that Bitcoin could become not just a national currency but a world currency, would you rather use a currency where your government can come and say, we're just going to take this money from you, we're going to shut down your bank account, we're going to seize your money in the bank account? Or would you rather have, and also we're going to just print an insane amount to the point where, 100 years ago, the US dollar was worth 100 times more. And so, would you rather have that, or would you rather be invested in Bitcoin, in which case there's a cap on the currency supply, no one's in charge of it, and so it's decentralized, so nobody can print more of it and nobody can seize it from you?
It's not true.
What? What's not true?
So, yeah, Bitcoin. Okay, so can Satoshi or Nakamoto, whatever, change the Bitcoin protocol? Yes, it can. Bitcoin 14 can just increase the max supply. It's probably just a number. Make a hard fork, boom, it's more than 21 million. So, but I don't think that's likely. But that there's still that percentage out there that you.
Well,
if
but
it
the
can be
thing,
changed.
this is the thing, and
Something.
I don't think that everybody should invest their whole net worth in it. But the thing is like, okay, can the original creator of Bitcoin, whoever he or she or they may be, go in and change the cap? It's possible, but what the thought process is that since its inception, since I think it was 2008, that wallet address with those Bitcoins from whoever originally created Bitcoin, whoever originally coded Bitcoin, that has not moved. None of those Bitcoins have moved. And the thought process is, and this is something that everybody has to just decide in their own mind, which is, has that group of people or that individual actually, do they still have control, or have they just thrown away the key and they don't have any control over the software anymore? Now, that's a risk. That's a risk, and but it's still, I think, a risk worth taking, considering the alternatives, which is trusting in our government.
Yeah, I think simply he created to take financial control back from financial elites. So, although Nakamoto remains a mysterious figure, his goal for creating cryptocurrency in itself was never a mystery. Simply put, he created it to take financial control back from financial elites,
right,
giving ordinary people a chance to take part in a decentralized financial system,
right,
which, I mean, it's no coincidence he released it 2008, the biggest housing market crash in the United States.
Right.
So it's like,
now, could there be that, if it's a group of people, could it be a government that did this? Could be.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be an individual that wanted to take advantage of a need in the marketplace by creating this, and at some point he's going to cash out? Could be, but I don't think so. Now, it's a risk, it's a probability that you have to calculate and decide whether that's a good decision for you or not. But I still think it's a bet worth taking, especially if you're investing 5 or 10% of your net worth. So, and I guess
Well,
we'll see over
it's
time.
not financial advisors. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is just we're just talking here.
this
So
is
we're
just
not
personal-
experts by
yeah,
any means.
Yeah, just want to double.
Double
Yeah,
down on that.
double down on that. Yeah,
Everybody sue Jacob. He's
Yeah.
a piece of shit, and he caused you to lose argument.
Yeah, I just as with everything, don't invest money you can't afford because anything can happen. There's always events that can randomly happen and things don't go the way that you think.
Right, and you have to look up the. But one thing is for sure, this is like an unknown risk. So like, yes, that wallet, the creator Satoshi Nakamoto, he has still a large amount of bitcoins in a wallet. Now they haven't moved since 2008. The cap hasn't been changed since 2008. The theory is that whoever created Bitcoin has basically thrown away the key, thrown away the ability to actually change the protocol. Now, in the future, if that changes, then at that point, I don't think it's a good thing, and you get out at that point. But one thing we do know is that all governments are continually doing monetary easing, basically, which is another word for printing U.S. dollars or the currency in which country you reside, and that is a sure thing. You're for sure losing your money by just keeping it in the bank, for sure. For sure. Like, that's not a maybe, that's a for sure risk. So.
Alright, well, you got anything else?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's Bitcoin is one of the more interesting investments and technological advancements that could become a world currency in the future. And I think that for people that may be following along with us, if you haven't looked into it, you definitely should look into it. And, look into the pros and the cons, the risks, the upsides, the downsides. But I guess the one thing I want to leave everybody with is that your governments don't care about you.
No.
And
People really do care about power. And literally, I don't know, for some reason, for a while there, I was delusional about it. I'm like, how can people just want power for the sake of power? It's like, what type of person is that? And when you see it, it's just like, wow. Like, literally, these people just get off on having power. And it's like, if you see that, I don't trust those people.
Shout out to Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom.
Which we talked about in our last podcast.
Yeah, shout out to, wow. Anyways. We'll leave you on that positive note.
Positive note, yeah. And leave it on that positive note. Yeah. And I'll definitely be. I do have a small amount of Bitcoin, and I'll be continuing to invest in that.
Yeah, for fun.
For fun, and we'll see what happens in the future. So, but that was that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah.
We'll sum this up, and you guys have a good rest of your day, and enjoy your week, and yeah.
Peace out from
Peace
the
out.
Hormetic Monks.
That's right. Take care, guys.
Take it easy.